Hey y'all, Merry Christmas Eve. We're going to be doing an article review for the Dating with a Diagnosis content on the Dating with a Diagnosis Facebook group. Found a wonderful article sent to me by a friend inspired by last night's It's Complicated support group, which is part of the Dating with a Diagnosis series. Okay, so this article that she found is on a website, and I'll post a link, called Enlightio. I don't know what that means, but it's called Enlightio. I don't know if any of you guys heard of it or anything, but she sent me this article. It's called What's the Difference Between Companionship and Relationship by Clarissa Caricel. All right. It was posted December 29, 2023. Now, I want to read through the article and also give perspective while, with things that relate and connect with me. I'm going to be reading it off of my laptop while I stream here on live. So I think we should go through it, and as we go along, I'll just add a little perspective here and there, and we're gonna do our thing like we used to do, right? So welcome to the Yanni show. Welcome, viewer. So I'm gonna start. The lines often blur between the warmth of companionship and the heat of a romantic relationship. While they can coexist, each plays a unique role in our lives. At their core, companionship and relationships cater to different emotional spaces within us. One might bring the ease of a shared laugh over a cup of coffee, while the other might demand the vulnerability of baring one's soul to another. As you read on, ask yourself, is the line between companionship and romantic involvement as clear-cut as we believe, or could it be that the relationship you label as just friends harbors the potential for something more? All right, I read on. So what is companionship? Well, according to Enlightio Carissa, companionship at its core can be thought of as a cozy quilt on a chilly evening, a series of comfort, of a sense of belonging without the sparks and intensity that might come with romance. It's about finding joy in someone's company, often without the roller coaster of deep emotional highs and lows. Okay. So let's stop there for a second. Companionship is just that. It's company. It's someone to laugh with. It's someone to have memories and make memories with. It's someone who you may have inside jokes with. It's someone that you can hang out with occasionally without feeling like obligated to. Like, it's okay to say, no, I can't hang out. I'm busy. I have things going on. No tengo tiempo. I have no time. So that's companionship. For me personally, like, I didn't know back in the day when I was single and not necessarily ready for like a heavy relationship. I just wanted company. I didn't know that's what I was looking for, was companionship. And companionship is also a term that I ended up learning about through older adults who just wanted a friend, they're older in age, maybe like 60, 70, 80, and they don't want a relationship or to be married again or to deal with the messiness of a romantic relationship. So they say, they just want companion, and that's how I learned the word companion and companionship through older adults. It's really common, like a neighbor that lives next door in your elderly building, and you just not, hey, what's up? Would you want to go out for some coffee? Or, hey, do you want to play dominoes? So, I mean, like, companionship can be a lot that comes with it, but without the restraints and like without the pressure of a romantic relationship. Companionship can come from a mutual friend, like a peer, like just a homegirl. That's companionship. I have a friend who, we were companions for a while, as far as like we were hanging out like obsessively. She'd get off work, she'd come straight to my house, and at the time we smoked, we would smoke, we would watch TV, we would joke and laugh, we would think about different creative ideas, because she's an artist, I'm an artist too, and we would just hang out, and it was like good company for me. Like, at the time, I didn't even want a man around me, but to have my friend there, having that companionship, really filled in the void of being lonely, and being alone. You know what I mean? So that's my perspective and my experience on companionship. So more about companionship. Mutual interests, shared hobbies or passions often form the bedrock of companionship. It's having that friend with whom you can watch old movies, go for hikes, or talk about your favorite books for hours. I just mentioned that. Also, the ease of presence. There's an effortless vibe when you're with a companion. Conversations flow, but so do the silences. It's enjoying the moment for what it is without the pressure of expectations. So like the silence is the part where we're like hanging out and we're just scrolling through our phones. We're just looking at stuff on Facebook. Oh my God, like what is this? And you see this and you sharing it and you're going back and forth. But it's kind of silent, but everybody's like just looking through their phone, looking through their Facebook or through their social media feed. So that, sometimes the silence comes in that way. So support is another part of companionship. A companion is someone you can rely on, a partner in crime during the ups and downs who stands by you without the entanglement of romantic emotions. So it's like this person's not obligated to hold you down. They are not like, they don't have to sit there and work through this with you. They can just be present with you while you're going through it. So we go through things I think I've said this before. We go through things, but we don't have to go through things alone. So there's that. And that's where the support of companionship comes from. Companionship is not lesser than a romantic relationship. It's just different. It fulfills our innate need for connection and understanding, providing a comfortable space to be our unguarded selves. You know what else is really cool? Another form of companionship in my experience was going on dating sites or going into chat rooms and just texting all day, like texting people or like a particular person. Like you've never met this person, but you have this connection where you could just text jokes and ask questions like, what's your favorite color and what's your favorite video game, and oh, that video game sucks, you got to try this one is better, or stuff like that. So that's another form that I found companionship when I was single, and I found comfort in that, like just always being able to go online and just find some random person and be like, hey, what's up, want to chat? Not hang out, nothing, no strings attached, nothing, no obligations to meet up, not looking for a relationship or anything like that, just looking for conversation. So that's another form of companionship. So now it's going to go into the part of the article we talk about what is a relationship. So remember, we're talking about the difference between companionship and relationship. What is a relationship? A romantic relationship often involves a salad bowl of emotions and commitments that go beyond casual company. It's a partnership that's anchored in both the electrifying excitement of love and the quiet depths of mutual understanding. So I think, I like how I said the quiet depths of mutual understanding. So it's like we both are on the same page. That's a romantic relationship. We both know what we want from each other. We know what we expect from each other. We know what we're willing to sacrifice for one another. And that's the quiet depths of mutual understanding. All right, that comes with the romantic relationship. So here goes some bullets. Romantic attachment. This is where heartbeats sink and butterflies flutter. It's where emotional bonds are solidified by a deep sense of love, attraction, and care for one another that goes beyond platonic. Platonic means like no strings attached. We're just friends. We're nothing. So if you don't know what the word platonic means, you could Google it. But platonic is just basically like we're friends, nothing more, nothing sexual, nothing intimate. Welcome, viewer. It's just mutuality. We laugh together like coworkers, colleagues. Those are platonic relationships, all right, with no strings attached and no obligations to a person or another. So the other part of what is a relationship bullet is commitment and exclusivity. Romantic relationships commonly operate with an understanding of exclusivity, featuring plans for a shared future and a mutual dedication to work through life's complexities together. So, in a romantic relationship, planning the future together could be about getting engaged to getting married or buying a house or thinking about having children. You would not talk about having children with somebody that you're having a companionship with. Like that just doesn't, it doesn't match. Like if you're asking somebody who's supposed to be a companion, you're like, hey, what do you think about having kids together? You know what I mean? That's really kind of like where you're like overstepping, where maybe you want to bring it back a little bit because that's not where we go. I mean, in a companionship, you may talk about, okay, what are your thoughts of family and what are your thoughts about having children? But to be planning or suggesting to have kids with this person is not companionship. That's something you do in a romantic relationship. Buying a house is not something that you do with a companion. Unless you guys are roommates going into business together. You can be companions and go into business together. That's something, business ventures. That's something that happens with companions. coming up with creative ideas, events, planning parties. That's something you do with a companion. Like, hey, let's throw a party. Let's invite all our friends. Let's, do music. Let's do dancing. Let's do food. Let's do snacks. That's companionship. All right. So we're talking about what's the difference between companionship and an intimate relationship. So let's stay on that. All right. So it also said, let me run it back. Commitment and exclusivity. Romantic relationships commonly operate with an understanding of exclusivity, featuring plans for a shared future and a mutual dedication to work through life's complexities together. Meaning, like, for example, if somebody passes away, and your partner that you're in a romantic relationship, somebody passes away in their family, and that's something you guys got to work through together. We have to comfort that person. We have to give that person the space and the time that they need to grieve. We have to make sure they know that they're not going through it alone, and to really have their back in an intimate way. You know what I mean? Doing things for them, like, staying by their side and ask them if they're okay, and getting them a cup of tea. And speaking of tea, getting them a cup of tea, or helping them find something to wear to go to the funeral service or the wake or whatever it is that they're having. All right. So those are things that come with, a romantic relationship, as far as like things you go through together. All right. Complex things that you go through. And those are the things that build a relationship. You don't have to test and try people in a romantic relationship to see what they're going to do if something happens. Let it happen. Like, life is going to throw things at you to test the relationship already. That's how the universe works. You don't have to go out of your way to try to test somebody, or to try to see how they're going to respond, or how to play in these games. Those are games. That's not sincere. Life is going to put you guys through things already that you're going to have to fight through. So why create more problems? I know a lot of people think it's cool to be like, okay, I'm going to act like this. I'm not going to answer my phone for 3 days and see how they respond, and, just to see how they respond. One day there's going to be a moment where you can't answer the phone for 3 days, and you'll see how they respond. Like, that's going to naturally happen. These things are going to naturally happen. Oh, I'm going to ask them for money and see how they respond, just to be asking them, just to see what they're going to do. Well, one day you're going to have to ask them for money, and then that's how you're going to see how they respond. You don't need to test people and send people through hoops and loops, especially if you don't know them, to test loyalty. Loyalty is not something that is given. That's something that is grown, okay, together. So, putting people through the ringer in hoops and loops and things like that, just to see what they would do, to try to test them. First of all, let nature take its natural course. Let the universe put those moments between you guys naturally, organically, because that's how you're going to really see that it's genuine, stuff like that. Anything beyond that, when you're forcing yourself to put this person through tests and hoops and loops to test things, that's playing games. And let's be real with that. All right. So, moving on. The next bullet of what is a relationship is intimacy. While companionship can involve affection, romance takes physical and emotional intimacy to a different level. This includes not only sexual intimacy, but also a profound level of vulnerability and openness with one another. All right. In a romantic relationship, your partner isn't just someone you spend time with. There's someone you share your life with. The relationship is a collection of every message, every glance exchanged, and every hardship overcome together. It's shared growth and shared dreams. Like I said, the universe is gonna test your relationship on its own. You don't need to do anything to try to prove a point in that area. So then it has a chart here that says companionship versus relationship. What's the difference? It has the aspects, the companionship through relationship. I'm going to post the link to this article below so you guys can kind of go through that on your own. But I will mention a couple of things that are on the chart. So here we go. So here's the aspect. One of them is physical intimacy. In companionship is platonic affection, like a hug, a fist bump, a handshake, a high five, a dap, something like that. But in a relationship, physical intimacy can look like deeper physical intimacy, like sex, and, giving each other like sensual massages, and, being naked together is another form of intimacy, and cuddling and snuggling. That's another form of intimacy that you would find in a relationship. Another difference they have here is expectations and responsibilities. In a companionship, there's minimal expectations. Like I said earlier, you're not obligated to do things with this person. Like you don't have to make these heavy sacrifices. But okay, do I want to go out with my family or do I want to hang out with my companion? You're not obligated to hang out with them. Like in a relationship, you're kind of like, but in a romantic relationship, the expectations and responsibilities is significant expectations and shared roles. So you might want to make the sacrifice. And actually, you might say, hey, babe, instead of us hanging out on our own, my family invited us to go out to eat or invited us to have this family function. Would you like to go and do that together? Okay, you wouldn't have to choose between one or the other. Just for an example. Another thing with the different they have here is legal and financial implications. In a companionship, there's no legal or financial ties, okay? Unless you're going into business together, like I mentioned earlier. Companions do go into business together and do things like that together, do projects and things like that. But romantically, in an intimate relationship, the potential legal and financial entwinements, especially in marriage, like, putting each other on your tax forms and being dependents and codependents with each other. So that's some of the stuff that they mention on the differences, different aspects of companionship versus relationship. We're moving on. So it says emotional depth. Companionship is comfort and support without the depth of romantic emotions. Friendships thrive on enjoying each other's company, but the emotional stakes are lower, meaning less turmoil and fewer high-stakes disagreements. In a relationship, the emotional depth is a deep emotional connection that includes love, passion, and often vulnerability. Partners in a relationship navigate through a spectrum of feelings together, facing challenges that can both test and strengthen their bond, as I said earlier. So then they talk about the level of commitment. What's the difference between the relationship and the companionship when it comes to a level of commitment? So, the level of commitment and companionship, commitments here are often casual and flexible. You might make plans to meet up for a weekly movie night, but there's no binding agreement about your future together. Now, the level of commitment when it comes to relationship involves a recognized commitment that may include exclusivity and plans for a shared future. Partners in a relationship work towards common goals and make decisions together. So, when you're with a companion, say you want to buy a new car, you can mention to your companion, say, hey, guess what? I think I'm going to buy a new car. And they'll be like, okay, cool. What kind of car are you thinking about? Or why do you think you need a new car? Or, your car works fine. Maybe you could save money. They might give you some tips and ideas of like how you can save money or where you can go or, help you along with the decision so you're not going through it alone. But in a relationship, it involves like you can't make these big purchases when you're in a marriage is on your own. Like if you want to buy a new car, that's something you have to be like, hey, babe, I'm thinking about getting a second vehicle so that it's more convenient for us. What do you think? Do you think we could pool our money together and, make this happen? Do you think we need it? And this person in the romantic, intimate relationship has the right to say, no, we're not doing that. Okay, so there's that. That's like the level of commitment in a relationship where an intimate relationship, the person can say no, and it just means no. It's not a good idea. Or not right now. We won't buy this second car right now. We can't afford it because we have all these other things coming up that we have to pay for and things like that. So, that's the difference between companionship and relationship, the level of commitment you have in them scenarios. So then it's moving on to the next part of the difference between companionship and relationship. Physical intimacy. We just talked about this. So companionship. Physical intimacy and companionship may include simple, affectionate gestures like hugs or a pat on the back, but typically nothing beyond platonic boundaries. Like I said, like a fist bump or a high five. But when you get to physical intimacy in a relationship, this includes a deeper level of physical intimacy that can encompass a full romantic and sexual relationship representing both physical attraction and emotional connection. All right, I think that's self-explanatory. Then we have the future orientation of the difference between companionship and relationship. So in a future orientation of companionship, enjoying the day to day without necessarily planning for a future together. Friends or companions don't usually make a long-term arrangement that binds them together. Like buying a car with a companion. Okay, one thing my mother taught me is you can never really like share a vehicle with like a friend or something, like as far as like co-signing, because if they mess up or get into an accident, you're mixed up in that too. If they don't pay the car note and stuff, your credit is mixed up in that too. So it's not a good idea to do things like buy a car, purchase a vehicle with a companion, stuff like that. People do it, but then you look at shows like Judge, what's the name? The Spanish one. The judge shows, the court shows, and you see all these people fighting over, oh, well, we bought a car together, and I helped them buy the car, and I co-signed, and now they owe you all this money, or they went and totaled the car, or they abandoned the car, and all these issues, and got your name all mixed up in it, and y'all are just companions. So now you have this nasty mess, right? Okay? So future orientation, like it said, companionship, enjoying the day-to-day without necessarily planning for a future together. Friends or companions don't usually make long-term arrangements that bind them together. You will not buy a house with a companion. Okay? Relationship. Partners plan their futures with each other in mind, considering each other in decisions ranging from career moves to living arrangements and family planning. Like if my fiance, if Bae wants to get a new line of work, and he wants to do another career or something like that, that's going to affect me too, because we live together and we have to pay the bills together. And if he goes without work, then that changes the dynamic of our finances, our budgeting. How are we going to pay this bill and this if we're not getting the same amount of money? If I had a career change, it's the same thing. These are things that we have to discuss, because then it affects the finances and how we're going to pay the bills. Okay, so those are the difference between the future orientations, like the ideas and building together between companionship and relationship. So moving to the next one. So expectations and responsibilities. In a companionship, there's a flexible understanding that each person has a separate life. Expectations are minimal and centered on enjoying time together. Expectations and responsibilities in a relationship are shared expectations and responsibilities such as emotional support during hard times and even participation in routine. So we're moving on to social recognition. So in a companionship, this may or may not be recognized socially as significant, often seen as friends spending time together without societal labels. But when you're in a relationship, you're recognized by family, friends, and society as a pair. Relationships often carry recognized titles like boyfriend, girlfriend, or spouse, and are often marked by events like anniversaries or engagements. So when you're in a relationship, like for me, when I go see my grandfather, he's like, hey, where's Bae? Where's your guy? Where's your other half? And I'm like, oh, he's at home, or oh, he's at work. When I go to my grandmother's house, she's like, oh, how's he doing? And I'm like, oh, he's great, so there's that. So when you're in a relationship, my family doesn't ask about my friends. They're not going to say, oh, hey, how's your friend so-and-so? And that just doesn't happen. Even sometimes when they meet them and know them, like my sister-in-law is more likely to ask me about my bae than to ask me about a friend that she's met in passing a few times, that came to us. She's not going to be like, oh, hey, how's so-and-so? But she might say, oh, how's bae doing? So that's the difference between the social recognition between a companionship and a relationship. So then here they have personal growth. In personal growth, companionship provides a stable environment for personal reflection and leisure without the pressure of evolving or changing oneself for the sake of connection. Personal growth in relationship can challenge and encourage personal growth as partners inspire and motivate each other to be better. Growth may sometimes be a joint effort. I have a poem about this. But I like this because, in companionship, let me read that again. Provides a stable environment for personal reflection and leisure. So it's okay. So my personal growth in a companionship looks like, hey, I'm struggling with this, and I don't know what to do, or I don't know if I'm wrong, or I don't know how to go about it. And the companion will be like, well, hey, girl, you know what? It's going to be all right. And, you'll figure it out. And, oh, well, here's a suggestion idea. Have you tried this? But in a relationship, and you're struggling with something, it's like, okay, babe, This is what we're going to do. This is how I can support you, or how can I support you? How can I be there for you in personal growth? And once you evolve in these ways as a partner, it's like, okay, I understand she quit smoking cigarettes, so I'm not going to have cigarettes around the house. I understand she stopped smoking weed, so I'm not going to smoke weed in front of her. I understand she doesn't like me when I'm drinking too much, so I'm going to limit myself to have 1 beer instead of 5. So stuff like that is what you would find in a relationship when the person is making sacrifices to make the relationship to evolve with you in your personal growth. Versus a companionship, they don't have to make any sacrifices as far as like if you're gonna change and stuff like that. They're like just okay, whatever. It really doesn't affect them. But in an intimate relationship, you have these things where like the person is making these sacrifices and considerations and compromises on behalf of your personal growth. So here it goes again. Legal and financial implications. In a companionship, there's little to no legal or financial implications arising from the relationship unless deliberately chosen, such as going into business together, as I mentioned. And in a relationship, especially in marriage, there can be significant legal and financial entwinement with shared assets and legal rights. Like if you get a divorce, you got to split all that stuff and figure out who's getting what and how are they getting it and who's doing the paying and who's doing the spending. All right. So the different now here we go with communication and conflict. Communication is often lighthearted and avoids deep conflicts. Disagreements may occur, but they don't typically threaten the foundation of the connection. So you may have a disagreement with a friend and it may be easier for you to work that out. But here we go. It says in a relationship, communication is key for resolving conflicts and deepening understanding. Partners must navigate conflicts that impact the relationship and work through them constructively. So when there's differences in an intimate relationship, you guys have to work through those together. And it's not about communication. It's about understanding. And it's also about sacrifice and compromise and how we can both do better in an intimate relationship. Okay? Welcome, viewer. The next part is life integration. So the difference between companionship and relationship when it comes to life integration. In a companionship, it maintains a level of independence. Personal, social, and family circles can remain separate. It occurs to the extent that it's enjoyable but not obligatory, as I've been saying. So then it also says the life integration when it comes to relationships is partners' lives are often closely integrated, sharing friends, attending family events together, and building a common social life. All right. Then here we go. Transitioning between companionship and relationship. Oh, this is going to get juicy. So when we're transitioning between companionship and relationship through life, our relationships with others can change. Sometimes what starts as companionship slowly blossoms into a romantic relationship, and other times romantic relationships mellow into comfortable companionships. Understanding how to navigate these transitions can help us manage our expectations and ensure that both individuals are on the same page. All right, so before I go into the bullets of that, right? So, companionship is the best way to start to have an intimate relationship with somebody. You have your friendships, but a companionship I feel like has like a more intimate meaning to it than a friendship, but not as intimate as a intimate relationship, okay, as being a couple. So I was just telling my friend the other day, I'm like, hey girl, you know what? Sometimes that's just not the person for us. If we have to try so hard to get attention, or if we have to keep like going out of our way to impress this person, or to get, to get perspective out of this person for them to open up to us, if we have to keep going out of it, that's probably not the person for us. You know what I mean? But you can still be friends. You can still have companionship. I told her, listen, one of my friends told me when I was going through a breakup, she was like, girl, and then I had found the guy that I'm supposed to be with. Me and Bae got back together. And before that, I was like, girl, that was a mess. I said, the guys that I was going through, I said, that was a mess. I said, I can't do it. No, I'm happy where I'm at with Bae. You know what I mean? She's like, girl, you have to go through a lot of losers before you find the winner. There's that. And I said, yeah, I know I had to kiss a lot of toads and I had to kiss a lot of frogs before one of my frogs turned into my prince, my king, my bae. So people used to think like, oh my God, this girl's always with somebody, or she always got a thing on the side or something going on. Da, da, da. That was exploration. That was lived experience. That was me exploring. That was me getting to know myself and getting to know what is out there in the world, giving myself options and giving myself choices. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you got to kiss them all to find the right one. Like, how am I going to know which one is the right one if I don't kiss them? You know what I mean? And that was my logic, and I was never ashamed of it. You know what I mean? But you grow out of that when you find the right person that you're supposed to be with. Especially when, like, for me, I was never in a rush to get married, settle down, and have children. For me personally, it was about finding myself, exploring, like I said earlier, and just getting to know what's out there. Now that I have bae, and I've been through the life experience that I had, I'm not curious. I'm not trying to figure out what I want and what I'm missing and shoulda, coulda, woulda, because I've been through it. I know what's out there. Ain't nothing else out there. Don't nobody want my black ass. And don't nobody want his black ass either. I say that in all love and respect. But the point I'm making is, like, we're for each other, and those other people, it was either I was for them or they weren't for me, or like they wanted me, but I didn't want that. It's always like, mixed balance. You can tell. You can really tell what's for you and what's not. So, bae was pretty much my companion for a very long time, honestly. He was always there. Like, after when he got married, there was a break. But before all that, he was always there. Like, he knows everything that I've ever been through. He was there through all my trauma and stuff like that as a companion. While I explored the world and explored myself and got to know myself. He held me down, for real. He didn't judge me. He didn't leave, nothing like that. Like, he was there for me. When you got married, that's a whole different story, But anyway. So let me continue. So we're in the part of the article where it says transitioning between companionship and relationship. All right. So 1, let's recognize the shift. Pay attention to changes in feelings and behaviors that indicate a deepening emotional connection, or conversely, a move towards a more platonic bond. So maybe the person might want to get closer to you, and maybe the person might want to be a little bit more, have a little more space between the two of you. So recognize the shift. Communication. Open and honest communication with the other person is always a must. Discuss feelings, expectations, and concerns to ensure both parties are on the same page. Redefining boundaries. As dynamics shift, so will the boundaries that define your connection. Be prepared to set new limits that respect the relationship's current state and both individuals' comfort levels. So, if you're stepping back from the person and say, hey, listen, I'm going through something right now and I just really need a little bit of space. Like, you can call me, don't call me at midnight like you usually do. You can call me anytime before 8 p.m. and we can chat for about an hour. So that's a boundary you can set. Another boundary you could set is like, hey, don't text me every day. Like, just hit me up once a week. Or instead of hanging out every day, like, you can say, oh, let's just hang out once a week. So this is a shift when the person want to move back. But if a person wants to, if y'all want to, come closer together, you might see things like, hey, I want to spend more time with you. Or I miss you and let's do something. Or they might buy you a special gift and, they might start kissing you on the cheek or kiss you on the forehead when they give you a hug, things like that. So recognize the shift, recognize the signs and catch them, especially if you are interested in that. But sometimes what happens is we're trying to keep things like a companionship. We're trying to keep things leveled for the respect of the other person. Like, we can really, really like this person and it still be a companionship. And they can always just keep it, I always liked you. I like you. But you're respecting their boundaries. You're validating their boundaries by saying like, okay, I do like you like that, but I know you don't like me like that, or you're not ready for that right now. So I'm respecting that. And I'd rather just have you as a companion, as a friend, because I want to see you happy, even if it's not with me, as May said. All right. And that's my situation was with my fiance, with Bae. Like, I told him from the time we was going to, I said, hey, if you find somebody that make you happy and it's not me, go for it. I'm all here for you. I'm supportive. When he got married, I was rooting for him. I was rooting for both of them. I'm not a bitter bitch at all. I was happy for him because I thought he was happy and I thought he found something better and, things like that. So you want to see this if you really care about the person, it's not about you. You want to make these sacrifices and these compromises to make sure that they're happy either way. But we're going back to recognizing this shift, okay? So that was the redefining boundaries part. I'm going to read that one more time. As dynamics shift, so will the boundaries that define your connection. Be prepared to set new limits that respect the relationship's current state in both individuals' comfort levels. All right, so the next part of recognizing the shift. Seeking consent. Always ensure that any step forward, especially involving physical intimacy, is consensual and mutually comfortable. You both want to be having fun. You both want to be safe. You both want to enjoy each other, okay? The other part is embracing change. Transitioning between a companionship and a relationship, or vice versa, can bring about uncertainty. Embrace these changes as part of your personal growth and life's natural progression. Sometimes people want closure. Sometimes you'd be like, okay, we're in an intimate relationship, but this is not working out, and we're better as friends, and we're better as companions. Like, we can still be cool, we can still rock, but I'm not messing with you sexually anymore, or I'm not going to be chasing after you, calling you every day. I'm not giving you rides to and from work anymore. I just lost my page. And I'm not doing those things anymore. And, so there's that. Setting those, I just lost my page, you guys. Let me see if I can get it back. I can't believe that just happened. The page just went blank. Okay, I got it back, y'all. All right. So we're in recognizing the shift. Okay, yeah, I was saying, so like when you guys are together in an intimate relationship, you might decide to be companions, okay? So recognize that shift. Sometimes you're companions, you decide to come together like, hey, we have a great bond together. We make a perfect team. I think we could build a life together. I think I could see myself having kids with you because you're so responsible and, you're so focused and, you take good care of me and you take good care of the other children around you or your other children that you have. I can see myself having kids with you. Or I love the way, your creativity and your ideas and you're savvy. Let's go into business together and stuff like that. So recognize the shifts. We was at seeking consent. Always ensure that any step forward, especially involving physical intimacy, is consensual and mutually comfortable for both people. Make sure you're safe and make sure you're having fun. If you're not having fun and if you're not being safe, then you shouldn't be doing that. All right. So here we go to embracing change. Transitioning between a companionship and a relationship or vice versa can bring about uncertainty. Embrace these changes as part of your personal growth and life's natural progression. Then we have seeking support. If you're unsure how to handle transitions, consider seeking guidance from outside people, like from friends or family or professionals who can provide perspective and support. I love when people can provide perspective, or, that's the whole point of having conversations and such and such. So we're nearing the end of this article, which I thought was really great. And I thank my friend for posting it and sending it to me, because this was like great content for today. I wanted to do a live today. I didn't know what it was going to be about, and this just fell in my lap. So here's the end. Navigating the transition between companionship and relationship involves emotional intelligence and a willingness to adapt. By staying attuned to the nature of your bond and openly addressing any changes, you can smoothly adjust to new dynamics without compromising the connection's integrity. Okay. Then on the article, they have frequently asked questions. I think there's a space where you can comment and ask questions to the writer and the editor of this article. So there's that. So some of the frequently asked question is one type of relationship better than the other? That's up to you to decide. But it says here, neither is inherently better than the other. It depends on what you were looking for at this certain point in your life. Both companionships and romantic relationships have their unique benefits and challenges, and what's most important is that the relationship aligns with your emotional needs and life goals. Okay, we talk about that a lot in the Dating with the Diagnosis curriculum. Like, what goals do you have for yourself, and what goals do you have once you get into a relationship, and how can you align these goals with the other person? How can you come to a compromise and make these decisions and agreements with the person that you desire to be with? The other question they have is frequently asked questions is it common to confuse companionship with a romantic relationship? It says, it can be common, especially when there's a close bond and affection. Boundaries can sometimes blur, making it difficult to distinguish between the different types of connections. This is where self-reflection and open communication become essential. So, they're talking bloodlines. I know you want it, they may not. You think they want it, they may not. Because it's bloodlines. So, you want to really pay attention to how, when you're having a companionship, you have to really pay close attention to the cues. Some of us who live on the spectrum, we have trouble with social cues. You have to be straight up and straightforward with us. You have to tell us, no, I am not interested in dating you intimately. I just want to hang out with you. Or sometimes you have to be blunt and say, I'm not interested in just being friends with you. I really want to be with you. And so dealing with people who are on the spectrum, you have to be very clear with them, because sometimes they're not going to get the fact that, you're holding their hand at the table. They may think you're just being nice, or you're just holding hand at the table having dinner, but somebody may be sitting there trying to give you signals that they really like you and they care about you. Holding hands is one of the ways that we show people that we care, to put our hands together. All right. And some people may not get that, so that body language cue, or like holding them a little tighter and hugging them in different angles, in certain angles. Like, when a girl puts her arms around your neck and he puts his arms around your waist. There's the side hug. There's the church hug. Okay, so some people can't read those cues. You have to be literal, and you have to be straightforward and say, hey, this is what I want and this is what I don't want. And then also you can still find some common ground. Like this person, like I said earlier, you might be feeling this person and you know that they're not ready for an intimate relationship, but you're like, okay, that's cool. Let's just have fun. Let's just be friends. Let us just be what it is. And I had a video where I talked about going at an organic pace. Like, let things be organic. If you're going to end up moving in with each other, it's going to happen organically. It doesn't have to be planned and forced. Something that just happens. But be careful for them hobosexuals. Y'all know what a hobosexual is? A hobosexual is a person who dates on the precipice of needing a place to stay. Okay? Because I've had those before. Be careful with those hobosexuals. They will squat, and you will not be able to get them out unless you call the police or enforcements. I did not want to call my brothers. I did not want to call the police. I took care of that and got what I had to get, But I know a lot of people who had to deal with some hobosexuals. These are people who are willing to date you and pretend to love you and want to be with you on the precipice of needing a place to live. So watch out for them hobosexuals, you guys, because they out there and they lurking. They looking. They apartment hunting. They're on the dating sites and everything. All right. And then they have all these pictures like with gold chains and wads of money, and they got a job and a nice car, and you meet them, they ain't got shit. They ain't got nothing. Nada. All right. So be careful with that. But I'm getting ready to close this out. I hope you guys found perspective in this. I hope this clarified a lot of stuff. I'm going to post the article in the comments. And then I'm going to be sharing this to YouTube. So definitely go and subscribe. You can see my YouTube links anywhere on my page and on my Dating with Diagnosis Facebook group. But thank you so much for sitting with me, all the views that came. And this gave me a lot of perspective too. I didn't realize there was so much content on the difference between companionship and a romantic relationship, and that this had to be explained. Because I already am aware of it, but to see somebody else have made a whole article and took their time to give us perspective was really, really cool. So once again, this article was found on enlightio.com, and it's written by Clarissa Caricel. All right. And I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.